college. I'm over the student housing aspect at College. And so I run all of their housing, all their dormitory apartments there. And I've been in housing for a little over 15 years. I've been doing that. And so we're kind of navigating through that because, of course, running a student apartments and dorms in a time where you're trying to practice social distancing and all that, of course, has been a whole new
That's
aspect.
crazy. That is what I forgot you even do. I knew you worked at the school. What are y'all doing?
We actually are not shutting down. So we're one of the few colleges that's not shutting down because we have international students. And so a lot of schools have just kind of shut down and asked their international to go back. But the president didn't want to do that. And so we're open, but not open. Like we're open, the students are there. We come in like once a week, me and my staff kind of rotate for a couple hours. And really, even if they show up at the door, we're telling them to email or call. So it's like, we're there really for emergencies. But we have to set up like the cafeteria and all that to try to get them food with practice social distancing and all of that. And so it's been an adjustment, but I've actually kind of taken it both ways. Like what I'm learning on my job is kind of the same thing I'm applying ministry wise, because you're navigating through uncharted waters here and, similar things that I'm dealing with, in ministry. I have my own ministry called Wildfire Blazing Ministries, and I have several different entities under that. And so one of the biggest aspects is I mentor young adult females all over DFW. And so we're having to, typically we do meetings and things like that. And so I'm navigating through that, like how to still mentor. And now it's more of a virtual mentoring going on. And it's been really cool because you have to get innovative. You have to get creative. You still got to try to be there for people. And so that's a different aspect for me as well. But a lot of what I'm learning on my job, I'm ultimately applying in my nonprofit as well. And so we have that. Plus, like at the church, everything has changed because, of course, we're doing virtual ministry as well and pre-recorded services on some days. And then a lot of the different leaders are just trying to reach out and touch base with people and see how they're doing and bring stuff to seniors that can't get out. And so I enjoy the challenge just because it's different. So it's like one of the things with things like this that I'm learning is you got to seek God as to what he's saying and how to do it and how to be effective. And so some of what I'm learning over here, I'm applying with my job, and some of what I'm learning with my job, I'm applying over here and navigating. I think because I've been doing literally 2 years ago, God told me to start doing more online presence. He ended up saying, like, you need to do more lives. You need to get comfortable doing lives. You need to do more reaching out virtually. And I've seen, like, in my 2 years, it's been extremely effective. Like, I get DMs from Africa and just people reaching out that I couldn't physically touch by way of traveling, but doing my lives, like, they're getting shared in different aspects. And so for me, this hasn't been a challenge for the ministry aspect because I've been doing the lives for about 2 years now. And so it's kind of, for me, like, even talking to different people that's doing ministry, it's like I'm sharing with them from the aspect of, like, I've been doing this. This is like normal for me. But for a lot of people, they're not used to being in the camera like this. This is a whole different setting where, like, when I go live on YouTube, I get complaints, I get Muslims, I'm just used to it by now. Like, you're gonna get all those people responding from all over the world, what they like, don't like. But some of, like, my other pastor friends, like, they're having to adjust to that. Like, they're commenting, they don't like it, get off of here. And so that's an adjustment. And so, yeah, that's my background. That, I guess, a little more than my background.
Well, no, that's good. No, you actually spoke to one of the big things why, because, and just to validate what Angela said, that's one of the big reasons that I invited her, because I know, like, she did start this stuff about 2 years ago. Like, when I first met her with the wildfire and being live and posting and just those testimonials and pop-up words throughout the day. So she definitely started that social media campaign way before Corona even got here. So, so I know that she's a valid resource into just like what she was talking about, like that commenting, man, like, we not ready for that. We're ready for that world stage. Because you're used to that congregation to the world. It's like, hold up. You don't even know me.
Right.
So that's huge. That's huge, operating in that dynamic. So all right, Taylor, talk to us, Mr. N.
What's going on, guys? I'm Ian Taylor from Akron, Ohio. I was raised in Mount Vernon, New York, moved out to Akron about 15 years ago. Was out here serving for a church, started my ministry about 3 years ago, and I've actually been doing the streaming piece of it since we began. It's actually been more effective for me and my ministry than in person, actually, because I'm not from Akron. So Akron just has its churches that they're comfortable going to. You know what I mean? The church that I was a part of for 8 years it still is a thriving ministry. So I didn't expect to get, I didn't expect to just boom immediately, but I have a lot of people that follow us and have been, basically walking with us for the last 3 years, just online in different states. So that's been a great thing for me. I'm a case manager out in Akron, Ohio as well. So I'm working with the Department of Job and Family Services, basically doing eligibility for food stamps and medical. So a lot of people
right now?
Know.
Are y'all busy? Like, you still like working?
Oh yeah.
Like, what's going on? As far as
currently, I don't know what's going on this week. I know last week, we had over 100 calls waiting all day. So wow. They're trying to alter the way that we do our eligibility to kind of push the benefits out faster. But between people getting us confused with unemployment, people wanting more food stamps and that sort of thing, it's just very difficult to have us manage the increase that we're seeing right now. The other thing is that a lot of our staff that we had down there that was over 60, they sent home for fear that they could get sick. So that cut us down a bit. And then they're rotating us in 1 week on, 1 week off. So okay. This is my week off. But that will probably be the last time they do it. They're going to have us come back in full force, I believe next week, and try to address the need. Because it's been, people are panicking. A lot of conversation is a lot of, it's going to be okay. Calming people down. Your benefits are fine. So explaining the changes to them has eased them a little bit. But when you get that call, are you guys going to close my benefits? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? It's consistent. You have a lot of older people concerned about it, wondering if they can get more benefits, things like that. So it's a task on a daily basis. But I've been doing it for 12 years, so I'm seasoned. This is where I get all this great from.
There
you go.
And that's a big piece, because I know just from even with talking with Fred, and that's kind of I found out more about your background. I was like, man, that's another resource, right? So when we're dealing with how do we communicate to people in the most effective way,
right?
Like having that conversation, because sometimes there's a like a churchy kind of preacher conversation, but that conversation is really given to a person in a place of comfort, right?
Right.
How do we communicate to people in a place of panic? Where their mind is like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how I'm gonna pay my bills. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Yeah. And just, and being able to have, like that person such as yourself, okay, how do we help with that messaging to be, connect and be able to be able to do that?
Well, right now what we're doing, especially down there, a lot of dealing with the panic that I hear on a regular basis, it just comes through being at the job. I hear a lot of, of our newer people that don't know how to handle, people calling in irate and not understanding why they're so concerned. Me working down there for 12 years, I realized I can be on the other side of that desk in the snap of a finger. So for me to know that, I'm in a position where I don't necessarily have to worry about someone cutting me off. If I don't turn something in, if I don't do what I'm supposed to do because I'm moving or I'm in a shelter, or, these are things that we see on a regular basis that we don't take into consideration because we're just taking phone call after phone call, seeing person after person. But the reality is that a lot of the people that we're serving, their realities are a lot different. You know, they change vastly and they change quickly. So for me, and I can't say that for the people who I was taught underneath and who kind of helped me along at the job, they allowed me to see where I'm at and then also see into the situation that I'm dealing with. You know, so when a woman's cussing me out, or a guy calls down there and he wants to, you know, fight me over the phone or something like that, you know, they're just trying to get their circumstance handled. And usually by the end of the call, you know, they appreciate the fact that I didn't respond the way they initially did, because they were just trying to get some things done. So I think it's just a mindset of, it's not, I hear the word often, or this quote, you people, and that bothers me, because they're not you people, they're us. They just need a little bit of help right now. And that's kind of how I tackle it. They're not different from me or you or anybody else. A lot of them are in situations where they do need help. I talked to a woman that was at a shelter, and she was having problem getting her benefits because she couldn't verify residence. Right. And, you know, so I just made the phone call and talked to the person, and I was able to do that. They verified it and I got her benefits going. But that's certain things. Sometimes workers don't go that extra mile because it's, you know, I don't feel like doing it, or the lady came at me crazy, and you can't get personal when it comes to that.
Right.
You know? So, you know, so that's just kind of what I do, man. You know, and it definitely flows over into ministry, and, you know, it gives me the ability to take what I learned there and apply it in a place where it's really needed, especially when I'm talking about Christ and the love of God and stuff like that. I have to be able to show that with people who may make me a little uncomfortable at times with their tone.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right. Appreciate you here. All right. Double J.
Can you see me okay?
No, you in the shadows, man. You look like Black Panther, and I
that's what I'm gonna say.
You the yellowest person on this line. So
I got you, Angela. First time I've ever been dark in my life.
Right. We must be trying something new. That's
better, man.
There you go.
There you go. I'm trying to see what I look like with my dark skin. That's all. In my dark on. My name is Jason Johnson. I'm a pastor of Kingdom Ekklesia Church. It started about it'll be 7 actually. We celebrating our 7th anniversary the first Sunday in April, so it's coming up, and I thank God for that. We've been in the HEB originally in Irving, Texas, and then went down to closer to Fort Worth and North Richland Hills, and now we're back in HEB. And this is where I believe God has us. So I do that bivocationally. I have a full-time job, I guess more than full-time right now, to what you were saying, Wes. I work for Bank of America, so you can only imagine.
Let's put it on hold. I need to put it on hold, man.
I run the whole entire vehicle loan department for Bank of America, so just trying to figure that out and you know, do this. It's been quite interesting, and I think it was Angela who said just taking some of these best practices from work and applying them to ministry. That's always been the motto, because in all transparency, typically corporate, they're more fast-paced at moving to connect to the world than the church is, and really seeing what they do and how they connect with people. They're already thinking about how it's going to look when you come out of this. While we're so focused on we're in it, they're looking at interest, right? And they're looking at deferment payments and forbearances, and they're looking at, okay, what happens when you got to start your payment back up, and how much will you owe us, and how can we, to be honest, how can we make sure we don't lose money in this time? You know, while we're over here trying to get benefits, and I understand, you know, the difficulty there. We have to keep our minds focused on the future, because this is just a season. It's just a temporary season. We get lost in it, we'll find ourselves in a worse situation. So in lieu of that, knowing that, I'm really, really focused right now on ministry and teaching my people harvesting and seed planting, and really understanding that this is not the time for you to go and eat your harvest. This is the time for you to plant your seed. Because to be honest, if you recall 2008, 2009, where the economy just, you know, took a dive, that's when a lot of millionaires were born. That's when a lot of people, you know.
A lot of people got rich then.
A lot of people got broke. And a lot of people got rich.
Yeah.
So we got to decide what side we want to be on. I don't think I want to be on the broke side this time. So just really trying to educate and influence and encourage the people of God that you don't have to throw everything away because of a temporary hardship, and really just start thinking about, okay, yeah, you may have a difficulty for a month or two, but the next 12 months or next year and a half, you can put yourself in a position if you invest a certain way, or if you think about certain things, or if you do get a certain forbearance or deferment, but you keep paying on your loans, how far ahead you get in. So I'm just out here teaching, Genesis, even though I know it. I'm not here just teaching Leviticus and Deuteronomy. I'm teaching practicalities and understanding what we are as a nation and as a world, as an economy, and really trying to make sure that all of these bridges are colliding in the church. We're not left behind, man. That's my prayer, is that we don't get so religious that we forget that faith without works is dead, that whatsoever we do shall prosper, and then we stop doing stuff. And I'm really focused right now in this season on applying that pressure of doing with my people. To your point, got a real young church. So, young-minded people, we are in the now. We're in the now, and the go is next. What's next? And let's go, and trying to get them to pause for a moment, just think about, okay, you still got to live outside of this. You still got another 10, 15, 20 years that you have to do something that your generations rely on, that the generations you haven't met yet depend on your investments right now. So just really trying to tackle all those things, man, along with working 50, 55 hours a week. Like you said, crazy times and dealing with this, man. This is just my background and what I do.
No, I mean, think about that though. So everybody on this call, like, we work, okay? So now, and we work these full-time jobs. So we work these full-time jobs. And one of the different paradigms, so when we look at, oftentimes it was like pastor was just like full-time pastor. So like, I was just go pastor church. So if we look at, everybody said that we run, our template is based upon what I'm taking from corporate America and what I can use in ministry, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So in that platform, how do you feel right now that churches receive that corporate mindset?
I'll start it off. So, not to mention working for Bank of America, I'm also in the process of getting my master's degree, and I'll be graduating in a couple months. Prayerfully,
bless him, Lord. Bless him, Lord. Bless him. Just bless him, Lord.
But I bring that up because I just had to do a paper on the history of the church, and it talked about how we went from being priests and prophets and the medieval times, and we got to this place where we are now, what's called the corporate church, where we have these organizational meetings, and we have this mindset of corporate America more so than the organism. And while I have these professors, and I respect it, I respect all, I promise you, they experience the longevity in the ministry. I respect everything that they put their blood, sweat, and tears in to get. I know how hard it is. I take nothing for granted. I think sometimes we lose sight of how God is trying to turn his bride, ultimately his church, to become connected to the world, because essentially he never told us to go and get people and bring them in. He always told us to go get people and meet them where they are. That was his message. So in understanding that corporate mindset, there should be a balance between organization and organism. And there should be a balance between corporate and church. And I think sometimes that rub meets each other, to where there are some people that are receptive to it, but then there are those who want to stay in their silos and want to just say, this is how we've done it, this is how we always done it, this is how we're going to continue to do it. And when you get hit with something like this, well, you can't do it no more. What happens when you can't do it?
You can't do it.
Not willingly, but obligatory. When you don't have a choice to change. Do you just let your church die, or do you justify disobeying the laws of the land because you say I have faith and we're still going to meet, you know. And again, I know I'm not disregarding anybody's faith. I know everybody has their different measures of faith, but the Bible is clear in saying obey the laws of the land. The Bible is clear in saying that God puts people in authority, whom he chose, he raises people up and puts people down. So where we are as a nation, I don't think God is oblivious to it to say, oh, I need the church to be rebellious. No, I need the church to be smart. And I need the church to understand that I'm trying to get you out of your isolated mentalities. And that's, you know, not just for some of the older saints, but also from the younger saints. So it's just really, to your point, that question, how's the church, how's people receiving it, is really depending on how we're portraying it, how we're modeling it. Are we modeling it as something that's, you know, powerful and impactful, or are we looking like we're in this place of detriment and we're dying?
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I would say I feel like you need it. I mean, there's a merging of you have the organism of the church, which is alive, which is church, you know, God's bride, but you also have organization, like you have business, you have to get tithes, you have to have offering to be able to pay light bills and things.
Gotta do that. We gotta do that. Like, we gotta do that.
Things
right.
that have to be there. And I often hear people say like, no, there should be no corporate, no business, but you know, you're not going to stop collecting tithes and offering and all the normal things to pay bills of a physical. I feel like you need it. And one of the things I'm seeing in the body right now is even if you're not good at it, you see this in corporate America all the time. You may not, like, I'm over a certain amount of staff, right? I'm over so many hundreds of students. And I have strong points. I have things that I'm extremely great in. I have gifts that God has given me. And then I have areas that I know that I'm not as strong in. Like, I know there are areas that I'm weak. And so I hire people who are great in those areas, right? I'm not trying to, it's not a one-man show. You know, it's like I hire a team. And in that team, the guy that's directly under me, he is great at processes and Excel documents and accounting and stuff like that I'm good in, but I'm not great in. Like, I'm trying to run a whole housing, you know, department. And so you hire those people that there are areas that they're proficient in that may be even better than you. And you see that in corporate America, which the same language has to transcend to the church, which is that even if you're a pastor or a leader that's not great when it comes to corporate America, like you're not even great when it comes to being innovative or creative or the streaming, or that's not your thing, right? Then you got to have people that's their thing, and that you're not afraid to let them be creative, or you're not afraid to let them be innovative, right? And you see the merging of both because it's needed. It's like, I have pastor friends, this is not their thing. Like, this is not it. And so my talking to them, I'm like, well, who in your congregation, you know, is good with the internet? Like, who is good with graphic designing, and who can get you a flyer? You ain't had a flyer in like 5 years. Like,
right.
People know what your website is. What's your cash out? I don't want to get a cash out. Well, cash app is what's big now. So you need to have a Zelle, a cash app, something like that. Like, you got to get with the times. And even if that's not your thing, then you got to have people that you can train up, or people that's already their niche, and you can't be afraid to release control and let those people help make, help, not necessarily from the standpoint, they're not trying to make you great, but you guys are working together to exalt the name of Christ. And I see that in corporate America. And I think what I'm seeing, like, in the body right now is lots of leadership is starting to see, like, okay, you can't just run this, you know, by yourself, just you standing on the pulpit preaching and hyping your crowd up. Now you have Muslims, and you have people in Africa, and you have all these people that are on your lives. And it's like as you're preaching and it has to reach out, right? It can't just be I only speak to Black African Americans that are over 50, right? You have Caucasians that are 23 watching. You have somebody in their bed that probably never went to church, you know, that's watching. So from my standpoint, it's you see the merge of corporate, and then you see, like, the church is the church. It's alive. Nothing's wrong with merging, you know, corporation within the church. I just think a lot of it is getting outside of that. This is just, I had to talk to a pastor last week about this, like, because I also have a business called Leveled Up Leadership, which is I consult churches, right? And I was talking to a pastor last week, and I said, this is just the way we do it. Doesn't work right now. Like, this is the box we stay in. Well, that box ain't gonna get you very far. And if you're not careful, like you may miss what's going on right now. Like you may be way behind that curve. So you're gonna have to get out of that. We don't do Cash App, we don't Zelle, we don't we want to check mail. Like that's not mailing business. In the midst of all of this right now, right? They want quick, easy. I can send my tithes via Cash App or text. Text, stuff like that.
Them apps. Gotta have them apps.
They ain't doing physical check, right? They more than likely just not gonna pay their tithes.
Right.
Because it's gotta be that, easy access right now, quick, and you gotta be before them. Like you gotta have that community going. They gotta hear those words. They gotta hear from you. They gotta hear you love them. It's like, I see the merging of it. And to me, what Pastor Johnson said is true. For a while, the church has been behind the curve. Like, it's been like the world has been doing these virtual Zooms and training with their staff. And, and it's like churches have been physically meeting, like people driving an hour to come,
right.
An hour and a half, because they're afraid to have these Zoom meetings, or they're afraid to, and I'm all for, interaction. I'm just saying, like, the world has been doing these things. Like this is a norm. Like my boss would be like, hey, can you hop on a Teams meeting real quick? In the middle of dinner, hey, can you hop on real quick? We need to have a quick meeting. It's really been, to me, because there's been such a set way of doing things, it's almost like there's a little bit of fear there. Like I'm afraid to change. I'm afraid to do some things that are different. But I'm seeing like way more people being reached now and I'm a numbers person. So it's like, I've been watching numbers of people online, like who's online looking at this ministry, where they did a live before and it was like 20, and now it's like 120 people on there watching from different countries. So to me, that's not a negative. That's a positive. The gospel is going, whatever method it has to go, it's reaching further now to me than just who can come to Dallas and sit in my church.
Perfect. Perfect. What you got, Ian?
I think they nailed it on the head, honestly, man. I mean, both great points. One of the things that I really feel is taking place with the church and corporate merging together is actually an awakening of the body, because as Ms. McGill pointed to, now you have to put people in positions where they have to function in an area that they're good at, that you may be not as inept as they are. And I think that because we've gotten comfortable coming to the building, having our services, hanging out for a little while, going home, there hasn't really been activation in that way for a lot of the body. So what I feel, even more than a knee-jerk reaction from certain leaders because of the shift that's taking place, is the body is now going to be responsible to really engage the church in a different way, lend your talent, hey, I need you to do this. Are you good at that? And do it in excellence. And I think that for a very long time, and this is not an attack, but for a long time, I believe that the idea of promotion only came with the collar and an opportunity to preach or teach. But now we're seeing that the body itself has to be active. You have to be able to come in and bring something to the table that God has blessed you in specifically that will help this piece of the body function at a high level. And that's kind of what I've been, dealing with my people on. I'm dealing with the book of Ephesians now, and just dealing with the idea of us being a whole body. I shouldn't be the only voice that you hear all the time. I shouldn't be the only one reading and studying and praying and trying to give all I can to a ministry. And then all people want to do is take. At some point, what makes a leader worth their salt is the disciples they are able to raise up, and discipleship is just what you do well, staying in Christ and allowing your gifts to kind of manifest and be put on the forefront. And I think that right now there are a lot of millennials that in this time, I think, will make their way to the church because of the shift that's happening. They're needed now. They know these apps. They know how to make sure the people that are talking crazy get taken out before.
You got people running it. You got people running it.
While people are talking, see, you have people that know analytics. You have people that know how to set this up so where your screens are looking different, and there's so much. information that's out there that, listen, we preach, we teach, we work, we're doing all of these different things. You're right, we can't do it all. But now there's an opportunity for these disciples who have been sitting dormant to now step up to the plate and say, hey, I can help here. And it's their responsibility. You've been feeding these people for years. Yes. You've been praying for them. You've been speaking life into them. You've been doing all of this stuff. And now it's time to step up to the plate. And I think that the church needs to call on these folks. Hey, listen, we're doing something new with Facebook Live or with YouTube. Who knows how to set this stuff up? Who knows what I need? Right. And now you empower people who are normally just sitting there, getting the word, still being impacted. But now you need me specifically for a thing, specifically for something that will help push the church forward. So I think that this merging between church and corporate is really going to awaken the body that I feel has been kind of dormant over the years, because they've just been comfortable coming through, chilling, hearing a good word, they retweeting and doing all that other stuff, and the pastor ain't even on Twitter. You know what I'm saying? Now get connected. So I think that it's really going to bridge the gap. I think this is an amazing time for the church, because I really feel that it's going to become what God wanted it to be. We're all going to function in a way where we're looking out for one another and sharing best practices. The competition has to die out now, because we're all pretty much on the same level. We all got a camera and a computer and the word. So
that's it.
That's good.
So I'm looking forward to it. I think that it's really going to be great, and I think that a lot of people, like I said, that were just dormant in the church, I think they're going to their spark is going to come back, and they're going to really serve in a different way with more fervor.
Absolutely, because it's like I feel like now, to all of y'all, to everything that you guys have said, that we're getting ready to activate those people who weren't necessarily the choir members, the praise team people, or ministry or leader, but if you look at their social media, like they post it every hour. They got going on, like they have these certain niches right now. And one of my biggest fears, and this would be kind of like one of the last things that we'll kind of talk about. One of my biggest fears is that the church is going to miss this opportunity. Some churches, not the church as a whole, some churches, because just like you said, Ian, like right now we're on an even playing field.
Yeah.
I remember when me and you spoke, week before last, we were saying, if you think about it, y'all, there is no more like mega church.
Yeah.
There's no more like big church, little church. Just like Ian said, you got a camera, a Bible, and you preach it. You know what I'm saying? It's like this is the platform.
Right.
Yeah.
So now you have equal opportunity because you got an internet, I got an internet.
Right.
You have that same opportunity, but what my fear is that some churches will miss this opportunity to connect due to the fact of tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And because I saw a post that really sparked me today, to where it said the church is not empty, the church is deployed.
Good. That's good.
So it's like we're in this space now to where we can really go everywhere and see everything. So for me, that's one of my biggest fears, that we would allow tradition to get in our way of engaging. We would allow, our way of how we used to doing it. Just like Angela said, we had become programmed.
Yeah.
And just like you said, like people are driving hour to church. Like we became programmed to a building. Like that was church for us. That was church, getting up and going to that building. And the fact that I went to that building allowed me to check the box.
Right.
And I went to church. Yeah. So now we got to operate in a space to where you have to be able to get more than just this building now, because all that's gone.
Yep.
The lights, the cameras, the praise, a lot of this, everybody going pre-recorded praise teams. stuff that you used to do.
Right.
You know, it's like, what we gonna do when we run out of the vault? You know, don't do. We can only run that race so long, right? So it's like, how are we going to engage and just? I'm just interested to know what do you feel is one thing that could cause the church to miss this opportunity?
I think if we don't restructure our infrastructure, if I could put it that way, if we don't not just rethink how we do it, but realign some of the things that we have holding up our church. And when I say that, you know, I think you hit it right on the head, Wes, when you talked about worship leader and you talked about, you know, evangelist and missionary, and all those things are necessary. Don't get me wrong, but there has to be a different level of structure now to where social media is not an afterthought, but it is just as important as evangelist. I'm not just praying for the next missionary. I'm also praying for the next media person. I'm not just praying for, you know, the next, right, exactly, right. You know what I'm saying? That's just as engineer, evangelist. Both of them, right, 5-fold ministry, 6-fold ministry. I need an engineer too. You know, you're so crazy. But I think restructuring so that when we do, and I'm not saying if, because I really believe Angela and Ian hit right on the head that God is really going to send us people that we have to put in position for their talent to be maximized. But we can't become so dysfunctional while having these floods of people that we don't have a structure in place, that now a blossoming group or tree that should be growing into this strong, healthy organism, it becomes like a wildflower, and it's a wildflower, and it's everywhere, and it's vines everywhere, and it's chaos. And if we don't take the time right now, as whatever ministry we're in, whether we're a pastor, whether we're a leader of a ministry, if we don't take the time right now to restructure our church to say, okay, God, I'm ready for you to open up the windows of heaven and pour me out the blessing that you have for me to receive. That even though I may not have room enough, I have the structure in place that when you pour it in, it don't break down things that I tried to hold up this new generation with old mentalities, or this new way of doing church with old way of thinking, you know, just really restructuring how we do church. Because Wes, I think we will miss it if when this is over, we try to break everybody back to do what we used to do.
And you know we gonna do that.
You know.
Man, listen, dog, when people were saying, like when people were upset, right? Like I'm talking about, I talked to 3 real church folk today when Trump made that announcement that they increasing the thing to the 30th.
Yeah.
No Easter? Like when did being at the church
come on here
equate Easter? Like how,
come on here.
So, that was the no Easter? I mean, Easter was gone. Like Easter gone. like ain't no Easter. We can't go to church, so ain't no Easter.
Well, you still
you know, I'm like the whole resurrection is gone.
Yeah, because we can't go to church.
Because we can't go to church, bro. We can't go to church. I mean, I'm talking about 3 people. I'm like, wow, okay. I mean, and so, and to your point, I mean, and just even thinking, I mean, we have a lot of people now that's just like, you know, twirling their thumbs, like, what we gonna do Easter Sunday? And that's, you know, like, what is that gonna look like? What is that to where, because now we would joke about how church be packed.
Right.
On Easter stuff. People gonna show up Easter Sunday, Christmas, and Mother's Day.
You got it.
Them days. So now we got this Easter time. I mean, you buy a special outfit for this Sunday.
You know it.
Right.
You know it. Retail raise prices for you to come and shop.
For this Sunday. So to your point, what are we gonna do now?
Yeah.
Because it's gonna take a whole restructure. It's gonna take a whole restructure.
It is, and if we don't adopt and adapt, you know, we're gonna miss it, and we're gonna work hard. You know, I said something Sunday that God, because He pricked my spirit so much. I was talking about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, and it talking about being in pressing in the place of pressing with olives. And God said, while He's trying to squeeze us out of something, we're trying to squeeze ourselves back into something. Mm-hmm. And it just, how many times we say, "Oh, I wish I could wear what I wore back in high school. I wish I could wear that old, you know, suit. You can't wear that suit no more. It's over. It's done.
It's done with. Hang it up.
Period. Prom dress, it ain't happening. It's over. But now look at yourself instead of a negative, look at yourself as a positive and say, I've grown to the point to where I've grown out of my suit. Not so much that, you know, I became this unhealthy person. No, I became bigger and my muscles have expanded and my body has become larger. Well, that's the same thing with the church. We have to stop looking at ourselves as trying to squeeze back in these, you know, buildings and these silos and these where we doing things. And we got to say, well, I've been pressed out of where I was into this new realm. Now I have to function differently, and I can't be afraid to use what God has altered me into and stop trying to go back to where I used to fit into.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Angela.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, something I'm seeing is that I think, you know, and this is not all ministries, but I think for there was a lot of noise.
Yeah.
A lot of noise, right? And now that the noise is not there and it's silent, people are having to go back and really seek the face of God, really hear what the Father
got
is
quiet, Angela.
Yeah, really
got quiet.
Led by Him, led by the Holy Spirit, because, you know, even as I've been talking to pastors the past couple of weeks, you know, a lot of it was, this is just the way we do things. Like we come, we open up, we do prayer for 30 minutes, you know, right? Then I preach for 30 to 45 minutes, right? We do tithes, we do offering, we out of there by 12. Like it had become so routine that I don't even know throughout the week. It was really inviting God in, really like, Father, is this what you want me to do? Is this what the people need? You know, am I in the right sermon series, or is this just something catchy for the moment? You know, it wasn't really inviting God in. It was just kind of like, this is the noise. This is what we do. This is how we church. And it's like, now you don't have that, right? You're preaching to a screen. You don't have all that noise, right? And it's like, you're left with you and the Holy Spirit and your thoughts, you know? And it's like, what I'm seeing is like, if we don't adjust to that, you know, like you need Him, you need His direction. You know, I was speaking to a pastor and he was in a sermon series, you know, for a while, like 4 months. And he wasn't even sure if that was really what, you know, God was saying, but it was just something he had been studying. He enjoyed it. And like, he realized when he did it online, it was like, you know, it just went downhill. It wasn't that the word wasn't a good word. It just wasn't for right now, you know? So it's different teaching something in your house that's just kind of like, this is what I like, you know, and I'm sure it's different in a broad audience where people are panicking and they're in fear. And then you get on there and you're, you know, and those people are like, I don't have to watch this. I can just click.
Absolutely.
I can click another one.
It's so easy. I don't have to hold my finger up. I don't have to leave. I can just.
They don't even have to, you know. And so it's like, you're seeing like, now it's like, and you know, you're seeing people have to really seek the face of God. Like, is this what you want me to teach? Like, is this what's edifying the people, exhorting, you know, spending more quality time? Because you're seeing those that are not spending that time, when they get up, it's almost like it's hollow, you know, when they're up there and they're preaching or they're singing. Like, you know, you've noticed now people, like, they can't do all them antics and stuff just to make the noise, you know. It's like, well, you really don't have a relationship with Him. We can see it, you know. And it's like, and that's not, I'm not being critiquish. I'm just saying, like, now you're seeing people have to evaluate, like, go back and like, okay, I'm a praise and worship leader, but I haven't been spending time with Him. I've just been exercising the gift and the talent. And I've been doing that for so long that now I realize when I don't have that audience hyping me up, and I don't have all that, and it's just me singing, like, I don't really know what to sing about. I don't have that exhortation, like, that's personal. And a lot of my advice, you know, talking to these people is like, maybe that's why all of this happened. Like, for you to really get back focused, for you to really start inviting Him in, really go back to, you know, John, like when he talks about the Holy Spirit, why we have Him, He's guiding us into truth, like really getting back into that. And as much as we joke about, well, people are online and they've never been to church, you know, they haven't been to church in a while. But we can say the same thing for a lot of church people. Like, you haven't been spending time with Him, and now it's becoming where it's like, man, I just can't teach an emoji-con sermon. I gotta really see what God is saying. And I feel like it's a great place. But I think with that, like, we got to continue. And I think he hit on this, like, we have to continue with that, you know, even when this is long gone, like, you can't shut the online ministries down again. Pull the cash outs out, you know, like, we're going back to our, you know, that's not going to work. And you're going to find that I feel like there's going to be a shift, because it's like people are finding that they got many choices right now, right? They were going to grandma church because that was just what they knew. And it's like, well, dang, 1,500 people are doing online ministries right now. Which one do I want to attend?
Where do I want to go?
You know, and there are people who are committed, but you do have a lot of people, like, I'm watching my pastor, and then at 3, I'm watching another pastor.
Right.
You know, it's like they're seeing. And so I feel like if we don't adapt, like what he said, and grasp some of the things God is teaching us, even down to, like, I was talking to someone, like, realizing that even them training their leaders, like, their leaders are freaking out. Like, they're realizing what was really in them. Like, you've been teaching them, but now that they got to operate, right, on their own, it's like they're still kind of pacifiers in the mouth. And you're realizing, like, our training has to shift. Like, our teaching has to be different, like, to really make sure it's effective for those leaders, that you're not having to be there with training wheels on them, where now they should really be able to function. But again, that's now you're having to revamp, because you're realizing what you were doing, like, it was effective, but it's not as effective in times like this, where now we need them to, okay, now you go and minister to this little group of people online, check on them, make sure they're good. And they're kind of like, you know, they're freaking out. And so I think it's a good time, because we're learning. And I feel like in our learning, we're adapting and we're adjusting. And I feel like for a lot of people, even once this is over, like, you could never go back to what was. Like, you wouldn't even try to. It's like, how do I build from this now? Like, what else? Like he was saying, what else can I add on to this from here? You know, yeah, we'll go back to congregating and things, but we're not shutting this whole creative, innovative system down. How can we build onto this even when this is over?
Good answer.
Yeah, talk to you.
I mean, I think you guys hit it on the head perfectly. The church will miss it by being stuck in tradition. I mean, you know, the word tells us, that's why I had grabbed my Bible real quick, because it just kept ringing in my ear. Mark 7:13, he told the Pharisees, he said, you make the word of no effect because of your traditions. And I think that that's been evident over the course of time, as well, as we've seen millennials fall away from the church, not engaging as much because of tradition, you know, and now there's an opportunity for them to hear the word of God raw and uncut from their laptop, you know, put their headphones on, get truth, and then maybe when we have the opportunity to come back to congregate, they'll understand what they've been missing. But we as the church, I don't necessarily think it's how we function currently, because we're already in that season. So everything that we're going to do now, obviously, we're going to have to pull into our next season, but we're going to have to kind of lay off some of the traditional mandates that we've put on the church that have chased people out of there. And realize how much the world is changing. Now, I'm not talking about relaxing in the way we carry ourselves and all of that other stuff, or relaxing in some of the things that God has simply just told us to do. But there are certain things that, you know, I watch, you know, churches like Hillsong and stuff like that. And, you know, theologically, I may not agree with everybody every time I hear something. But if you can come into a church with your hat on and still hear the word, some churches, they'll kick you out. You gotta go, young man.
You're not even gonna come to the door. Whoa, young fella.
It's some of these things that I think the building is going to have to, the collective group of that building is going to have to come down and say, do we want to preach the gospel to all who will listen, or are we going to stay stuck in the way we've done things for 30, 40, 50 years? And I think that if they can break tradition, and God has broken one of the biggest traditions that people have been stuck on, going to church. Although there's nothing wrong with it, he encourages us to gather, but he's showing us there are different ways to gather. Just I said, don't forsake the assembling of yourselves. What are the other options you have now?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So he's making us think the same way. He's creative and innovative. He's giving us that opportunity. So we cannot lose that when we get the opportunity to go back. We cannot lose that when we get the opportunity to gather again. We cannot lose the fact that if I'm not innovative, I need to find a young man, a young woman who is, and begin to truly disciple these individuals in the things of God. I think that we falter there. We're waiting for people to kind of pull themselves together and then we'll give them our attention. No, he empowered the 12 disciples immediately and they got it as they went along, but they were still powerful. They realized that connected to Christ, there are things that I'm doing that I'd never done before. There are people out there, young millennials, men and women, who need to be empowered that way when we come back. If we do not do that, and if that is not our focus coming back, I do believe that that's the way the church is going to miss it, because we're going to miss a generation that God is placing directly in front of us.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
good.
So, man, listen, we at the hour, right on time. Millennial preachers is what y'all like. Get them up. But now, I mean, guys, this is the platform. You know, this is the platform to where, you know, what we're going to be doing, what we're going to be sharing in this. This one is just, you know, really just to engage in that kind of stuff. I'm going to try to use different parts of this to create a more like a promo video. I got somebody working on like the flyer and all that kind of stuff for it. But we'll have those topics to where there'll be times where it'll be a lot, you know, like lighthearted, you know, to where we're going to talk about just old church traditions. That's just old, just funny stuff, you know, stuff that we do in the past, and just having, you know, those conversations. And then also really throughout this time specifically, you know, talking to those certain skill sets. So like with Angela saying, okay, we're going to be having conversations about how do we really create a social media footprint? How do we create like a social media presence? What does that look like, talking around that conversation? Like Jason, you talking about, like you say, just that financial mindset right now. You know, like what are some things, like, you know, like this isn't the time to be eating your harvest. You need to, like, you're so right, you know, planting seeds. And Ian, to your point, you know, right now, our members, like, this is going to get worse before it get better. You know, and that's the reality that we're in, to where how are we having conversations? Because it's a difference to people showing up to the church because like they can't show up to the church no more. So now people finna be making phone calls. Hey, my light's about to be cut off. This is about to be cut off. These things are about to be happening in that panic mode. And how are we having those conversations? Like, what are we saying to those people? And more so, who's having those conversations? Right. Just like you said, you have those coworkers, they not used. Your current church secretary may not be used to that.
I hear you.
You know, you may not be used to that phone call. Like something need to happen. I need help, man.
Yeah.
You know, and then used to so many people needing help. And then what are we doing? So, you know, knowing like those different resources, those things that are available. What, you know, like the church is not every church, you know, that has a 501c3, then making sure that they're tapped in to that $2 trillion, making sure that they are a part of that, making sure that as that money is trickling down, that you're having conversations, you know, with your local representative, state representative, to make sure that, hey, we're here, and to have those conversations around those things. But guys, really, really, really appreciate it. I mean, do y'all feel that this is something, you know, that can be helpful? You know, that can, you know, we're gonna get. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
absolutely.
You know, and like I say, it'll be more live. We're also, and during the live time, you know, and let me kind of, if y'all got 5 more minutes real quick, let me show y'all real quick, and I can do it on a test page. Let's see. Let's go here. I want to go on.
Babe. Right.
Okay. So yeah, you know, let me show y'all and do it at the same time. But
Yeah. But I was trying to get on.
I'll send this to you. But yeah, so I'm gonna try to do it. I was thinking like what works better for y'all, Tuesday or Thursdays?
Yeah,
Yeah, any one of those is fine.
Either one of those work? All right. I was thinking that same time here, and then we'll do like a like it'll be 7:30 to 8:30 during that time.
Okay.
Okay.
Tuesday, 7, so and then so we'll do it once a week. I'll send out the information, and then so guys, if y'all know other people, you know, who we can like pull in that may be a subject matter expert, and say, hey, this is a great person, and then just kind of looking for, you know, they don't have to be within the millennial range, but I want them to be able to still hit that audience, right? Because that's going to be like that, really just that target group of individuals that we kind of want to pull in, engage, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
All right. Well, let me close this out in prayer. Father God, we thank you for this time, this opportunity, and this privilege, God. I lift up each and every one of these individuals, God, their household, God, their ministry, God, their jobs and everything, God, that they're doing right now. Father God, we ask that you continue to bless in this season. Continue to speak to us in this season, God. Lead us and guide us in the way that you would have us to go. God, do not allow us to miss what you're doing. God, we welcome in the newness, God. We welcome in the shift, God. And we just ask that you prepare us, God, to be willing vessels. In thee, O Lord, we put our trust. Amen.
Amen.
All right, man. God bless y'all, man. I'll talk to y'all later on.
all right.
Likewise,
Yeah, thank
man.
you.
Bye.
All right, big dog. Bye now.